Thank you, Professor. Myself, Dr. Harkrishna Sivapati, student of S.C. Bhagwati, professor from Difficult University, now this college. And very insight focus you have done, but I have rose in my mind while I was listening very nicely that yes, autonomy have to be given, grassroots have to be given. That is, anthropologists also talk when the tribal problem raised in India and particularly Northeast. But you are very deeper analytical of the society. But what is the integration and adaptability as a whole state of Assam? Socio-political adaptation, cultural adaptation, and the totality of the society and community. What you have some idea that I am curious to know about.
Any other? Thank you. Very good question. Any other question?
I think that's all we have.
Okay, thank you. So first I would like to address Gautam Mukhopadhyay's question that is very much talking about the question of democratic deficit, and is very specifically asking about the sixth schedule status to the Hills tribe of Manipur. Definitely, I have referred about the committee constituted under Gopinath Bordoloi. This committee was entrusted to look at the problems of the tribes, and what is observed specifically that Gopinath Bordoloi, Nichols Roy, J.J. Nichols Roy, so many members were there. They have visited the tribal areas of that time very specifically, and they have taken representations from different tribal communities. So we have to go through the documents that they have gathered, actually what type of representations are being given by the Hills tribe of Manipur at the time, or whether they have visited that place or not. I'm not aware. But the question is that if we look at the Hills tribe, maybe the Tripura, if I take the case of Tripura, the sixth schedule of Tripura is a very peculiar kind of example where the hills of Tripura are being, all the hills scattered, it's a kind of satellite pattern, and the hills tribes of Tripura are being covered under the sixth schedule. Now, while the hills tribe of Manipur are being left out, that is very important to be looked into, and very specifically, if we do research on that, study on that, the history, the Gopinath Bordoloi Committee's report and their study, if we go through the archives, then I think it will help the people, Manipur, living in these areas, demanding sixth schedule status. I think it will be very helpful if they go very in a sustainable academic way to understand the thing, their demand may be more practical. And regarding the Sipakoti's question about adaptation of people, that is the in Assam, actually, so many, if we look at the Plains tribe community, I must refer the 9 Plains tribe community are there. The largest Plains tribe community is Bodo. The second largest is missing. Then the Rabha, Tiwa, so many, but a kind of accommodative culture is being developed in statutory dynamics, in political dynamics, a kind of societal dynamics. So I think this may not be a kind of complete, this may not develop a kind of complete and concrete accommodative behavior, but the nature of adaptation is very nicely working. That means the question of representatives, for example, in BTAD, there is a provision of representation of unrepresented. If you look at the Caribbean, that means again in other small councils, there is a provision of representation of unrepresentatives. This is the kind of council type of things. So many other societal dynamics are there. For example, in Assam, the Sahitya Sabhas, the literary organizations, they work in a very a strong manner to develop a kind of cohesiveness, a kind of mutual tolerance, mutual respect, a kind of environment of the progress of all together is being created. I think if we go together, then only we will be able to reach towards a kind of developed destination. That's if we go through this idea, then only we will be. I think it will be fruitful for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Sharma. Once again, we are very grateful for your insight to the Autonomous District Council under the 6th schedule. And on behalf of the organizing committee and all the participants, once again, we say thank you to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to the paper presentation. We have about 6 papers, 6 confirmed papers. So we'll give them about 6 minutes each and 4 minutes each for discussion, because sometimes the discussion often takes more time than expected. Most of this presentation will be online, except one. So first, may I request Dr. Tilguding Bite to present her paper on empowering women, the crucial role of girls' education. Dr. Tilguding.
Yes, sir.
As it is visible.
Okay. So a very good morning to both online as well as offline participants. Firstly, I express my gratitude to the organizers from Presidency College Modbung as well as Oasis College Kampupi for organizing the seminar in general, and opportunity for participants like us for online platform in particular. So as a global family in a global village, participants like me can be a part of seminars thanks to today's technology. So without further delay, I will begin my presentation with few slides on the topic empowering women, the crucial roles of girls' education. For the objectives of my paper, I have briefly categorized the objectives in 2 ways. That is, to study the challenge of girls' education, the challenges that girls face in their education, or the second one would be to study the roles or the impacts of girls' education in empowering women. So in here, the present study or my paper would be based on secondary data collected from various published and unpublished reports, books, journals, articles, and websites, and many more. Coming to the next slide, so I have written down here the challenges or the problems or the issues that girls face in education. So socially or culturally, they have faced certain challenges. So we know that this education is widely accepted as a powerful tool for empowerment. Of course, we all agree. However, yet many girls, they face significant challenges that hinder their access to and success in education. So some of the challenges I have written down as social cultural challenges. Under here, traditional roles and gender biasness play a very important role under the social cultural challenges. So it is mostly assumed and mostly observed that girls' primary responsibilities are domestic. So they are often expected to prioritize household chores like caring of siblings and helping parents in household activities. While speaking of this, like one incident struck my mind to mention. It was in the year 2022. So it was viral in internet. We all may have come across like a small girl, like Mei Sin Liu, a 10-year-old girl from Temenlong. So she gained fame in 2022 for attending school while babysitting her younger sister. I think this will strike all of your mind again with the picture that goes viral. So these are the brutal truth of today's reality with regard to girls' education. So if all this continues and if it goes on, this will result in higher dropout rates among girls, especially in the rural areas. So in contrast, what we find or what we observe is that boys' education is given more importance, thinking that they will be the breadwinner of the family. So investing in girls' education is often considered as like a waste of energy, a waste of time. So these are some of the traditional roles and gender biasness which does come across in your education. Then while coming again to early marriage, I prefer early marriage, not child marriage, because it is, I think it's more relevant with our case or with our areas. So early marriage is also one of the factors which greatly hinders girls' education. So married girls are often expected to drop out of school, which result in ending her formal education. So as such, what we see, they are more likely to lack the skills, knowledge, and job prospects required to uplift their families out of poverty, and then it is like holding them back to contribute to their country's development. So it places them at high risk of violence, exploitation, and abuse. So married girls as a wife or like as a mother, we expect them or they are expected to take care of the home, children, and as well as their extended family. So as such, once married, it is very unlikely for girls to remain in or return to school again. And then they also face certain economic challenges that poverty. Here poverty remains the worst and drastic obstacle to the education of girls and often acting as a primary factor in compelling like families to prioritize immediate economic needs over long-term investment in girls' education. So parents, they often choose to support boys' education. Why? Because they believe it to be more financially feasible choice, while girls are expected to do household chores and eventually they get married. So what we see it has been observed or it has been often assumed that poverty of the family has a great impact on the education of girls. Then we also have another opportunity cost, what we call opportunity cost, is the perceived loss. The perceived loss of a girl's potential economic contribution to work, including
please try to wind up.
Hello?
Please try to wind up.
Okay. So I will just highlight it. So another challenge which they face is about opportunity cost, hidden cost. What I mean here by hidden cost is like we see that education is free, especially in all the government institutions. However, there are other hidden costs, cost of book, cost of other essential stationery items. So these become a hindrance for girls, especially for parents who have more number of school-going children. So this also affects girls' education, and we have other institutional challenges also. I will just go through it. Institutional challenges of lack of infrastructure and facilities, shortage of female teachers, and then it also has the role. While educating girls, it plays a very important role in empowering women, like in personal empowerment, social empowerment, political empowerment, and economic empowerment. I will not go into all this. So with the next slide, I would like to give certain suggestion that is related with girls' education is that so community sensitization should be conducted on the importance and long-term benefits of girls' education. Then along with traditional education, what I feel is financial literacy and entrepreneurship skills should be part of girls' education, and then to integrate digital literacy into school curricula to ensure digital skills and active participation of girls in the digital economy. Moreover, to ensure safe learning environment, which is very, very much important, and then girls should be given the opportunity to connect with successful women and then mentors for what? Inspire them in their career paths. Then to provide scholarships, stipends, incentives to reduce financial barriers of the parents, and then to offer strong career counseling to help girls envision and plan for diverse futures. Last but not the least is to empower educated girls and women to be in the decision-making body in order to influence policies for gender inequality. So to conclude, I would like to say that girls' education is a fundamental pillar of sustainable development, and it is a true women's empowerment. So by investing in girls' education, we invest in healthier families, stronger economies, and more inclusive governance. Empowered women are more likely to contribute meaningfully to the society, advocate for their rights, and to mentor the next generation of learners, especially girls. So it is education only that empowers women in breaking barriers of inequality. So educating girls empower women, and empower women transform nations, which is also an indispensable strategy for global progress and justice. So for the path forward, we require collaborative action, ensuring every girl has the freedom to achieve her full potential. So with this, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kunjini. Now the floor is open for a couple of remarks, comments, or questions, if there is any.
Yes, most welcome.
Thank you very much. I am Dr. Shivakoti, Presidency College. Very nice presentation of the paper and very viable this topic also. But it was somewhat doubt or some not clear that your methodology, manifestation level and operational level, methodology, only secondary information, any clarification you want to, any whether you are the confident or regarding the methodology of the paper presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so regarding methodology, due to limited time, I do all the secondary data through, as I have said, through some secondary sources, through names, articles, and published books.
Hello. Ma'am, I have a small question. For example, the teachers have, married teachers, female teachers have like maternity leave and other opportunities. So is there any such facilities for married girl students who are still in college or university?
Regarding that, sir, I haven't, no policy I haven't come across regarding that, sir.
I think I can answer that.
Working women, yes, we have enjoyed.
That question is from Dr. Namtindumbo Tautang from the Mangnam College. Maternity leave,
I think that's a very good question. If we are welcoming married girls with the...
Yeah, maternity leave cannot apply to unmarried people.
Yes, if we are welcoming, if the schools or colleges are welcoming married girls or married women to the education systems again, I think that would be very much important if it is, if we are like agreeing with re-admitting those married girls. Yes, very good point.
For married people, there are, government has given sufficient maternity leave. Even I think even for research scholars also there is maternity leave, even child care leave is also there. So all those things are sufficient, I think, to take care of the married people. But as far as unmarried people are there, I don't think maternity leave is necessary.
For unmarried, not yet, but for married girls who like come back to the education systems, I I think this point has to be taken.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Chinturi. Your point is well taken. Next time, you please look into the unmarried people maternity leave as well. Now we have come to the next paper. For your kind information, we are trying to shorten the 2 sessions as much as possible so that we can enjoy ourselves in the cultural session. So we have Mr. Kampulan Sidlo and Dr. Jonun Moya on negotiating security and tribal autonomy in Manipur, a theoretical reassessment of Act East policy. This paper will be presented by Mr. Kampulan Sidlo.
Am I visible and audible?
Yes.
Okay, now just give me a second. I would like to share my screen. So,
Please remember you have about 6 minutes.
yes. Okay. There is some technical difficulty, so I won't be able to share my screen. First things first, I would like to thank the Almighty for giving this opportunity to present my paper. And secondly, I would like to thank the organizing committee for allowing me to present this via Google Meet. I am a research scholar from Mizoram University, and later Dr. Zun Moya is my supervisor, and we are co-presenting this paper. And my title, Negotiating Security and Tribal Autonomy in Manipur, a Theoretical Reassessment of East Policy. Since my time is short, I will jump straight into the main argument. And my assessment of this is that the literature that has been written on East policy and how East policy has been functioning is not up to the satisfactory level. And Thomas Kuhn, he talks about how theories determines knowledge. And this is where I would like to talk about reassessing how we read and analyze East policy, and especially in Manipur. And here, when I surveyed the literature on East policy, most of the literature has been written from the realist and liberalist perspective. And the reason why I say this is because East policy in the 90s, when it was Lugis policy, it had this neoliberal, liberal dimension of economy. It has this dimension of economic cooperation, where Northeast India would be seen as a bridge to Southeast Asia, where India could take the benefits of the burgeoning economic things that the Southeast Asian countries has been doing very well. And then we come to 2014, when it changed to East policy under the Modi's government, where it has this more strategic element as well, where the security dimension is also being taken into consideration. And East policy earlier, it was only at land-based, very, very territorial, but now it is encompassing the entire Indo-Pacific region, and it has this and the security dimension is becoming more and more apparent in this East policy. And my contention here is that, yes, East policy East policy in those lenses is still valid, but however, when we come to Manipur, it is a very, very geopolitically sensitive region, a geopolitical hotspot. And when East policies is being implemented, most of the literature, and also I believe that in the assessment of the government of India, the main stakeholders, people of Manipur, and especially the tribals, are not, I feel like they are not in the frame, they are not in the picture. And this could be attributed to the dominance of assessing East policy to the realist and the liberalist perspective, where the state interest becomes the main crux of it. Now, like I have pointed out here, why I have asked, is there a need for theoretical reassessment? And to me, yes, there is a need for theoretical assessment of ethics policy. And if yes, why? Because of the stakeholders, especially in Manipur, the Bugis and others, they are part of this people. And moreover, they are trans-border people. They are elitized in cross-border. And what the government of India does and does not do in ethics policy will have a very, very deep detrimental impact in the judicial governance structure. In most respects, have those things. Now, since due to lack of time, I will not be able to enter into all of the details, but I want to talk about this security dimension. When we look at the realist perspective, the definition of security, according to the state, is defined in terms of territorial integrity and securing the borders. That is the definition of security according to the state from the realist paradigm. And because of this, we have seen, after the conflict, we have seen the removal of FMR, border fencing has also been implemented. So that is security according to the government of India, or to be more theoretical, according to the state. Now, if we look from the perspective of the tribes, especially the Bugis and others, for them security is not only that. For them security is about protecting the culture, protecting the traditions, and protecting the land and the identity. So we are seeing this contrast, and we are seeing some kind of conflict, tension happening between these two. Between this thing, and then I attribute it to different theoretical, like from which from different positioning, but how security is being seen in this part of India. So for the and because of the concern of the state government in terms of threat from China or from illegal immigrant issue or from cross-border illicit trades and everything, that is the definition of security according to the state. But for the tribals and Bugis and others, the security is about protecting the culture, protecting the land, protecting everything. And it is this tension that we are seeing. So, and it is here that I am coming to the concluding part of my presentation, is that why not we approach a constructivist approach in reassessing ethics policy? Because in constructivism, it is a more humane approach to understanding international relations, and it is more grounded, and at the same time, constructivist approach are able to take not only the material aspect which realism and liberalism is taking, but they are able to incorporate the identity, the norms, and how cultures and identities shape norms and principles, and how those things translate into our perception. So maybe after assessing ethics policy and really understanding ethics policy from a constructivist point of view, the aspirations, the lived experiences, the cultures, the identity, the problems and the anxieties faced by the borderland people, the Bugis and Nagas, could be fully incorporated in analyzing ethics policy. And in that way, with this theoretical realignment, reassessment, we might be able to negotiate better with how ethics policy is being implemented. And to conclude my presentation, I want to really drive home the point. I attended one seminar, and in that seminar, a practitioner of Abiruquat was invited, and one of my professor, he asked him why ethics policy is doing a slow pace, and why why Indo-Myanmar relationship is what is the state of Indo-Myanmar relationship. And there, the expert, the practitioner, he says that because of the political instability in Manipur, because of the civil war in Myanmar, there is even though there is interaction between the government of India and Myanmar, there is a limited thing. But however, even though there is limited interaction between the government of Myanmar and government of India, there is still interaction. This is happening at the grassroots level, at the local level. And I believe that the practitioner is also coming from that positivist or realist lens in understanding this policy, and because of that, he was not able to bring in those aspects of relationship which is happening at the grassroots level. So my conclusion here is that why not we bring in the constructivist approach, and then in that way we might be able to really understand all these dynamics, all these local agencies, all these cultures and norms and identities, and all these aspects in truly assessing this policy. And in that way, hopefully, the aim or the normative aspect is that maybe some amount of political stability could be achieved in Manipur, and in that way, this policy would have a more comprehensive and much more in-depth dimension. So that is my presentation, and then I have to admit that I have not done any primary data. All of these are from secondary data from.
Mr. Counselor, thank you. We understand your presentation is a theoretical assessment or perspective. Now the floor is open to the participants.
Thank you, Mr. Sitlo. As a former ambassador to Myanmar, maybe I can also add something to your presentation. Firstly, I totally agree with you in your broad analysis, and I agree that basically the Act East policy is, and even the original Look East policy were basically Delhi-centric. The original Look East policy and the leftover of that also emphasized trade and connectivity. And what we have seen with the Act East policy is that trade and connectivity theoretically continues, but the security dimension, state-centric security dimension, has prevailed and dominated. And a lot of problems that you say are associated with that. I would just like to share with you, and if you can, we can exchange emails and contact numbers. I have written I've made quite a few lectures on Act East Northeast, or Northeast Act East, looking specifically at the Act East policy from the point of view of the Northeast. And there I have stressed not so much the cultural and identity dimension that you have, but I have stretched the people-to-people economic connectivity. Not so much strategic connectivity at the state level, but to people economic activity. And the second thing that I have observed, which again I can share for you and the audience, is that while we talk a lot about Act East as connecting us to Southeast Asia, even in the original Look East policy, it was always seen as a kind of strategic way of dealing with Southeast Asia directly in competition or in rivalry with China. And one subtle shift that we are seeing in the new version of Act East is, in fact, it is not so much strategic competition with China, despite some rhetoric to that aspect. But in fact, I think a lot of the problems in Manipur and so on are connected with trying to open up the Northeast for trade with China more than Southeast Asia. And there's no doubt that China is the most dominant economic player in this entire region, and any opening towards Southeast Asia will be at least potentially dominated by China. So I think these are 2 points that I would just like to stress with you, and one illustration of that is the very fact that, for example, the Chinese are building a port at Chofyu, which is barely 100 kilometers south of the port that we are building at Sitwe. And they are building a port there and an economic zone. They have a gas pipeline, they have an oil pipeline ending there. And they have every justification to securitize these assets, which are located just below our own borders in the Bay of Bengal. And yet, we do not hear much debate about the security threats posed by China through the Bay of Bengal. And that's an example of how our We have a soft orientation, in fact. I would say we are trying to cooperate with China rather than compete with China. And this is a very unknown aspect of the Act East policy.
Thank you. We have come to the end of the second technical session. You could save 5 minutes, even though we have tried so much. So, organizing committee.
Thank you very much, Professor Pihan Singh, for wonderfully chairing the second session of the technical session. And I think it is better to, and before I call upon our chairperson to chair the class technical session, I would like to request Asa to felicitate our resource person, Dr. Muhammad Farizuddin Khan, Department of Political Science, DM University. He will be delivering a special lecture on the topic of working of Panchayati Raj system in Manipur. And please come up, sir. Yeah. Now may I invite Professor Zia Domnel to chair the last and final technical session of the seminar, please.
Okay, we'll proceed. And first we'll invite Dr. Muhammad Farizuddin Khan from Department of Political Science, DM University in Manipur. And after that will be followed by the resource persons, paper presenters. And we'll expect the special lecture. I hope he may be able to complete within 20 minutes. Will it go right? 20 minutes. Okay. So, special lecture can be expected to limit himself within 20 minutes. And other than that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 paper presenters. And 4 paper presenters, they might be allotted 5 to 7 minutes. And after all the presentations are completed, then there will be joint Q&A time only, not for each resource person. So, may I now invite Dr. Muhammad Farizuddin Khan to deliver the special lecture.
Good morning, everyone. Respected Chair, Professor J. Dolan, Department of Political Science, His Excellency Sri Gautam Mukhopadhyay, former Ambassador to Myanmar, and all the dignitaries whose name I really don't know, my fellow colleagues, faculty members, the scholars, students, a very warm good morning again. Actually, I'm an international relations scholar, a student. A disclaimer is that as a political science teacher or an academic, we teach papers on political science, but my expertise is on the US policies. Especially I'm looking into India-US engagement in Bay of Bengal, and I'm covering that this part also, which former ambassador has delineated very beautifully and succinctly. Nonetheless, the topic I was given for this lecture, which I'll be completing in 20 minutes, is the working of Panchayati Raj institution system in Manipur. This is a topic that is very relevant as of now, and because I also belong to a village in Imphal East district which comes under Panchayati Raj institutions, and the background of Panchayati Raj institutions, it went before the independence. Like if you look at, Mahatma Gandhi's, this Wada scheme of education, he was talking about the same thing. Education should not be, confined to the formal Western model of education. Students are to be linked with, their crafts and craftsmanship. And Article 40 of the Indian Constitution, that is Part 4 of the Indian Constitution, Directive Principles of State Policy, the Panchayati Raj is reflected. Now, coming back to 1949, after 1949, we have a series of committees. Balwant Rai Committee in 57, then Ashok Mehta Committee in 70s, and then the latest committee in 87. And they were talking about three-tier system, recommending to the respective government at the time in New Delhi about three-tier system. Then Mehta Committee talked about the two-tier system, and then finally this committee talked, the Singhvi Committee talked in 87, 86 talked about recommending the PRI system to be implemented to replace from transforming from a kind of democracy which is representative democracy to a participatory form of democracy. That was the crux of this evolution of Panchayati Raj institution or Panchayati Raj system, which formulated, which was forced in 1993 through a legislation in 1992 through the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act by the Parliament of India, and came into force in April 1993, the next year of that legislation. Now that is the background of that, and all the civil servant aspirants, I believe most of the students, they prepare for state or UPSC examinations. This is a very basic thing that we have to know. Now coming back to Manipur. Now as you know, Manipur was a kingdom state, a princely state under the British government. So it has slightly different. For example, say, if we look back into the, if we have to study the Panchayati Raj institutions in the state, and if we look background, I mean, it is indigenous village institutions, both in valley and hills, were existing during that time also. Like this is much before 1947 or 1949, or even way back 1991. And the grassroots governance is rooted in traditional systems, both in valley societies in Manipur as well as hill societies in Manipur. So community-based participation and accountability were already there before the 73rd Amendment, which happened in 1992 by the Indian Parliament. So, for example, saying valley regions, the Kulaka system was well there. During the king time, that is before 1949 or 47, when India got independence, this system was there in village. Kulaka means chief in Manipuri or Metelo. The tribal chieftainship, which is still existing, was also there. It's still there. Then, for example, I belong to a community, ethnic community, which is known as Pangan community. And our community has also, during the king time, Pangan Shangleng. So this was also a model where devolution of power from the king to the ground level, where this my community leaders had to brief the king of that time, who was seated in Kangla, about the community development of particular community. So communities have that, both in valleys and plain. So contemporary governance system, if you look back, if we're looking, we have separate system. First, it was ADC, like Autonomous Hill Areas District Council, 1971, which was enacted by the as a legislation, then in 1994, which is still existing and under which framework we are working, that is Manipur Panchayati Raj Institutions Act 1994. And these two are very important. In fact, when this first committee, the three-tier committee, Balwant Rai committee was recommending three-tier system, then Ashok Mehta recommended in the 70s about two-tier system. Finally, it culminated into three-tier system. However, 1994 Act of Manipur Panchayati Raj Act recommended two-tier system. One in the Panchayat at the Gram Sabha level and one in the Jilla Parishad. So the Panchayat Samiti seemed to be overlooked. But now we see that this has been like almost three-tier system. But I am here to discuss not about the structures, but about the leakages and what happened to the Panchayati Raj institutions. What are the challenges and what are the constraints which are facing by the Panchayati Raj institutions, which I see from the ground level and which I have interacted with and I see coming from the village, I see. So we have this Panchayati Raj elections. 2017 was the last Panchayati Raj elections. We have not had Panchayati Raj elections in Manipur since 2017. So there is a vacuum of local level governance in Manipur also. So what are the consequences? Let's just focus on that. First, I think it's about financial and administrative constraints, which generally the books, articles talk about in Manipur. See, we have this system where the Panchayats, Gram Sabhas members are directly elected. Then Panchayat Samiti, the Pradhan also directly, then Pradhan, like 3-4 block Pradhans, they have Upa Pradhan also. Then above that, at the district level, is Jilla Parishad. The 3-4 Jilla Parishad, depending on the district and population size, they have Adhyaksha also. Then they have informally Upa Adhyaksha also. Now, what happens is that the first problem is that these members themselves, starting from the lowest level, that is Gram Panchayat, they don't realize that they are elected. They are elected by the people, just like MLAs are elected, Lok Sabha MPs are elected. That is number one. So, if we look at the composition of the district Panchayati Raj committee, which they have state services, even IS officers also, but in Manipur, most of them are Manipur civil service officers. I was part of the state service as an MCS officer before I joined as an assistant professor, so I know it. So I have seen that the BDO, which is a grade 2 MCS officer, the way the Pradhan approach, Pradhan does not have that significance of the role that he has been elected or she has been elected. That is one problem. So, from the decision making, right from the decision making at the committee district level to the ground level at the panchayat as well as Pradhan and block and as well as village level, the decision they are not aware of it. It seems the bureaucratic overpowering of the decision making is very, it's very glaring in Manipur. At least in the valley districts that I have seen with my own eyes. So number one problem is they don't realize that they are elected, they have safe dignity, and they, for example, small things like, for example, which has been 29 subjects, which are already in Part 9 of the Indian Constitution, starting from 243, they are not, and this is because of the less awareness, uneducated, and it's about, trying to, deviate from the real issues and, so these are some problems. So identification problems and identity problems. So this is an important issue which is creating problem for a structure. Number two, functioning inadequate funds and staff. This is again another important issues. So first is the identity issues. Like they don't realize that they are being elected and they are almost like compromising with their positions, and it has been overtaken by the state through the state bureaucracy. So everything is started from them. So they don't know their protocol, they don't know. So this is a generalization. So that is number one. Number two is inadequate funds and staff. See, there is a finance commission, state finance commission. Then there are district coordination committee also. The over-reliance in a state like which depend on the center 90 to 10 ratio, 90% of our funds, the over-reliance of these Panchayati Raj institutions, whether the Gram Sabha level or a middle level or a highest level, to the state government, to the district level, to the district officers is another glaring example. So it is connected with the power structure, the power orientation and function. So I would say the 3 F's, which is already there in the literature, that is functions, functionaries and funds. These are three F's which are completely lacking and which is creating a hurdle in proper and efficient manner, efficient working of Panchayati Raj institutions in Valley, in Manipur. Third point is poor functional devolution. This is also another important. The functional devolution is like state legislature, according to that, they are supposed to create certain laws, whether to expand it or not. So this is beyond financial. This is also another problem. There is a complete poor functional devolution from the state. So instead of bottom up, which was the essence of 73rd Amendment, it is completely like almost 99% or 90%. It is top-down decision making where people are, in oblivious situations and oblivious conditions that they don't know. However, there are certain issues also that is specific to Manipur, that is law and order issues which are cited by scholars also. Another is like ethnic, which is again related to, which is created law and order issue. Then suppose court intervention is also another factor. Then certain positions like ad hoc committees, they are not working. This is another. So these are elections and judiciary's issues. The first one was financial and administrative constraint, and the third phase of the constraints or which creating inadequacy and inefficiency is the jurisdictional and ethical issues. The number one factor is hill-valley divide. For example, say in valleys, there is accusations that most of the valley funds had been diverted to the hills, where in hills there is no accountability, where at least in the valley accountability is there. So this is a counter, allegations from both sides. The valley, the hills have these issues also, although the structures are completely different. So hill-valley divide is another factor, and it's been, more solidified by recent ethnic conflict that started in 2023. Number 2 point in this phase is, land and forest disputes. This is another factor. The population density imbalance is also another factor. So we have certain issues. Beyond this, we can also look into, like, for example, say, parallel power structures which are working. For example, in district councils which I have, the massive corruption is there. Massive corruption is there. I was posted in one of the aspirational districts of India, out of 100, that is Chandel district. I was the grants officer, I was the in charge sub-divisional officers and block divisional officers also working with the deputy commissioner. So this aspirational district has like an ADC, one of the 6 ADCs of in Manipur. One glaring example as a young civil servant, when I first posted in this hill district, was that I was working on this aspirational district, helping the deputy commissioner. Like massive corruption, like people were literally, they were with scooters and bikes. But there was suddenly, like in some 3-4 months, the funds had come in crores. And I could see, and this was a joke also there at that time, and this was some 9 years, 10 years back, around 2017, that everybody started buying Bolero and Scorpio. The next day, the money was taken out from the SBI bank of that particular district. And this was a joke, and this was a public statement, it was a huge hue and cry, and there was no accountability. And this was published in one of the Imphal Delhi newspapers. And this becoming issues, and there was a counter, allegations and how can you do that, what is that. So these happens in both areas. What I'm trying to do is, above all the constraints, the corruption leakage is the major, still relevant issue which is going on, which I have seen with my own eyes. So overall, what we get from here, so I think I have 4-5 minutes. Okay, so I'll wind up. What we get here is, although as Dr. Ambedkar had said, India cannot achieve a full-fledged democracy with only political democracy. We must have economic and social democracy, because social, economic and political democracy, only then a full-fledged democracy, effective democracy will be there. In that sense, the constitution makers, the legislator, have envisioned a scheme where decentralization of power, devolution of power, so that this representative form of democracy becomes participatory form of democracy at the ground level, and India has a decentralization which the local people understand the local needs of the local leaders understand local needs. But in the experience, overall I could say, because Manipur is also an integral part of India, the corruption culture in Manipur is a glaring example that Manipur, despite all the criticisms, is an integral part of India because it is one of the most corrupted states, and Indian society is corrupted. So what I am trying to say is that the leakages that the Panchayati Raj institutions have is creating more problem for the Panchayati Raj institutions' evolution to fulfill the dreams of the makers and legislators. With these few words, I want to end this, that this is a systemic problem, a systemic enemy, and this has to be dealt by the leaders, particularly the politicians, because I believe that the system can only train the citizens, vice versa. It will be very difficult for us. So we are in empathetic situations, I must say that, but the ideas of Panchayati Raj institutions cannot be questioned. There cannot be two ideas. The working of Panchayati Raj institutions in Manipur is facing different problems, and among them, corruption and identity problem among the elected leaders are the foremost. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khan, for your insightful and brief highlight of the functioning of Panchayati Raj system in Manipur, and I hope many of us may be aware of how PRI is functioning in the valley of Manipur. And I would like to invite the paper presenters to come up to the stage, so that in case of Q&A also, there will be no problem in attending from this stage. Two of you can sit this side and two can sit this side. All the paper presenters, please come forward. All the four paper presenters, let me not name you. Then, not now. After all the paper presenters are finished, then there will be common Q&A. There will be no single Q&A. If you have any query, you have to write, you have to ask to the point. And we'll go as per the serial. Now, may I invite Letkukin Mate, research scholar from Mizoram University, to present on the topic Fostering Youth Civil Engagement Through Volunteering in the National Service Scheme, Implication for the National Youth Policy 2014 and Draft 2025.
A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I'd like to thank the organizer for giving us the opportunity to present our research paper here, especially the research and internet IQAC's Modern Presidency College and then Francis College. I also would like to, it's my honor and privilege to present a paper in front of my advisor, research advisor committee, Professor Jenny. So today my topic is fostering youth civic engagement through volunteering in the National Service Schemes implication from National Youth Policy 2014 and Draft 2025. So my name is Lakbir Mate. I'm a research scholar from Nizami University in the Department of Social Work. So it's a joint paper presented by myself and then Professor Kopu Sekar, who is my joint supervisor, and Dr. Len. Our introduction here in youth, if we say youth in India, it's from the age between 15 to 19. This is as per national youth policies, but it varies from different from country to country. Like for world youth populations, in 1995, they define as a person is under 15 to 24, and then even in UN Secretariat and ILO, they define as 15 to 94 age group. Even in the African children, it's totally little bit slightly different from the other definition, that is 15 to 35. So in India, we have the youth policies. Here, youths are defined as age in the group 15 to 29. So I will be taking this age group based on national youth policies 2014 and draft 2025. So due to limited time, I'll just go with a review of literature here. So I'll just sum up. In US, the Corporation for National Community Service (CNCS) reported that 25 to 30% of youth aged 16 to 24 volunteers in 2019 to 2012, down from peak in the early 2000s due to the pandemic disruption. This is based on the report from the American Corps, and in Europe, Eurobarometer survey, that is in 2002, shows that 20 to 40% engagement highest in the nomadic countries in developing regions. Informed volunteering is example community aids is more common, affecting 40 to 60% of youth as per UN Volunteer 2021. So decline and shift, that's post-COVID literature. Not that 10 to 20% drop in forward volunteering. In the longitudinal data from the panel studies incomes dynamic, that is reduced participation among a lower income group. Research methodologies, research frameworks and methodologies, I use one call is.
Don't go through research methodology and go to the point directly.
Okay.
Yes, now.
Okay, here. Voluntary India has one of the largest youth population in the world, that's with 346 million young people projected by 2036. So this is as per NYP, National Youth Policy Draft 2025, and when nurtures these right opportunities of the youths become the greatest collective assets, including the vision for Viksit Bharat 2047. Voluntarism offering young people to partake to self-development and self-relation. In National Youth Policies 2025 draft, we have 6 components, and one of the components is voluntarism. This is through national service schemes. The critical imperative youth volunteering and civic developments. Youth are digitally nowadays are connected, socially aware, globally connected, and mindset and deeply engaged with climate change, gender issues, equality, mental health, and inclusive growth. Alignment with the National Youth Policy 2025 is 3 points I have taken out. Number 1 is youth empowerment. Number 2 is civics responsibility. Number 3 is community development. So my key findings and suggestions, are here. The first one is enhance civics awareness. The second one is leadership development. The third one is teamwork skills. So analyzing some surveys, reports, and interview data revealed that NSS voluntarily significantly improve youth awareness of social issues. With 87% of the participation reporting increased understandings of communities, challenges, and developing needs. The fourth one is the program structure of approach to community engagement provide students with hands-on experience in addressing real-world problems. Number 5 is experiential learning provide particularly effective in developing soft skills that are increasingly valued in both professors and civics spheres. Here, the others we have in the first one is students, knowledge community. So education initiative, and the first is, and then the second is health program, and the third is an environmental action. Implementation gap challenge, limited outreach and coverage, the first one that I have, and then the second limitations and gaps and challenges is inadequate monitoring and evaluations, and the third is resource constraint. Recommendations, my conclusions are enhanced program scalability, cultural integrations, the third is systematic evaluations, resource mobilizations, and technology integration. So, my conclusions is the study concludes that national service schemes as an effective instrument for operationalization of national youth policies, goals for youth empowerment and civic responsibility through volunteerism. The second is evidence from multiple hill districts demonstrate that structured volunteers opportunities significantly enhance young people's civic consciousness, leadership capabilities, and commitment. Third, by implementing recommendation outlined in the studies, policymakers and program administration can also strengthen this NSS. The fourth is NSS provide a time-tested, institutionally embedded platform for channelizing youth. The fourth and the final is investing in NSS program enhancements thus represents an investment in Indian democratic futures and development trajectory. I'll just like to conclude with the words from Mahatma Gandhi. That is, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Thank you.
Now may I call Reverend Dr. Leshpurunaki to present the joint paper.
Thank you, sir, and also thank you, the organizing committee. I frame my topic, conflict resolution in Northeast India, Mizoram, the Mizoram experience. The paper will mainly focuses on the contribution of church to fostering peace process during the Mizoram's political turmoil, and also attempts to draw some possible lessons where political disturbance and insurgency movement remained active in the region. As we all know, if we look at the political scenario of the Northeast, though culture and ethnic diversity are not causes for conflicts, one of the major problem area is that the Northeast is territorially organized in such a manner that ethnic and cultural specificities were ignored during the process of delineation of the state boundaries in the 1950s. This has given rise to discontentment and the assertion of one's identity, which has been or which have resulted in various forms of conflict in the regions. So some roots of political conflict in the Mizo Hills. As the British prepared to hand over power to India, a critical question arose: what should be the future status of the Lusai Hills? Should it join the Indian Union, Pakistan, Burma, or opt to be a crown colony under the British, or to become independent state? Those are some of the questions that they raised. And also, after the Mizoram merged with the Indian Union, discontent and dissatisfactions grew over various issues related to the policies of the Assam government and also the central government. So some of the factors are like, let's say, Assam government's language policies and long neglected poverty, poor communication, lack of contact between the government and the peoples, and administrative imbalance in the regions. So there are so many. And however, we may say the immediate context could be the Maotam famine, and the government's response were immediate trigger for the insurgency in Mizoram. so I will try to be very brief. So, when the Mizo National Front declared Mizoram as sovereign and independent state, so since then, it was the church who first condemned violence and also helped the people to come back into normalcy, since then the district was declared as a distant area. So Christian Peace Mission was formed, and also the Mizoram Church Leader Committee was formed. So the Mizoram Church Leaders Committee, through its peace delegation, they have played a very positive role and crucial role in bringing back peace and normalcy in Mizoram. Finally, after a series of discussions and meetings between the MNF and the central government, the Memorandum of Settlement was signed on 30th June 1986. So the church played a very positive role, or a crucial role, in bringing peace and normalcy to Mizoram. The church was the first to condemn violence and was a leading instrument in the process of political settlement. So let me just highlight some major findings. The study affirms that the involvement of the church during the insurgency period to bring about peace in the state was an important factor behind the signing of the peace accord. However, nevertheless, for 20 long years, the people of Mizoram went through untold hardships and experiences. The effect of political disturbance affects the people of Mizoram in all aspects of life. Even the church leaders were threatened both by security forces and the MNF. The success of the Mizo Accord can also be attributed to the following factors, like strong sub-tribal identities among the Mizos were effectively diminished. There were no competing insurgent groups in Mizoram. The government was clear who to talk to or whom to talk to. We may look at our context today. Division, groupisms, clanisms. We are loitering around the tribe issues. So all these are some lessons that I would like to highlight. So the lesson is loud and clear: sincerity and commitment of all parties are a must for the success of any accord or any negotiations. The role of church and civil society organizations, particularly the role of the church in fostering peace and normalcy in the state was significant. So, just one or two recommendations. This model of church role can be encouraged and emulated in the states of Northeast India, where political disturbances and insurgency movements are still alive. Of course, in some contexts, discussing the church and politics may be of little or no relevance. It would be better to speak of a discourse between religion and politics, or non-governmental organizations and politics. So if you, in the context of Mizoram, even today, the church plays a very important role in Mizoram politics. So in the post-statehood, the role of the church and civil society has become more focused on good governance and electoral reforms in the state. The religious and non-governmental bodies in Mizoram, particularly the church, have rendered selfless service without expecting any economic returns or political benefits in any form. So this is something that I want you to remember. Thus, this model can be encouraged and emulated in other states as well. However, the Mizoram pattern of settlement may not work similarly with other insurgency groups in Northeast India, as most of them have leadership disputes. This is just one critical comment. Leadership disputes and divided into many factions on ethnic lines. Most of these leaders have lost popular support. So a great challenge now in our context is today, now it exists with the central and state government to ensure a consistent, inclusive and open-ended dialogue with various insurgency groups and their conflicting demands. So this is one critical comment I would like to add at the end. Thank you.
Reverend Dr. Lieutenant Okip is MPhil and PhD degree holder in political science from Mizoram University, and MTH in Theology, and he is a faculty in Academy of Integrated Christian Studies, ISOR. I forgot to introduce in the beginning, so after presentation. Now, may I call Peter Papkinpu to present his joint paper with his supervisor, and he will be presenting on constitutional emergency or political strategy rethinking Article 356 in Manipur. And he is also a scholar from Department of Political Science, Mizoram University.
Good afternoon all, and I will not do the title introduction. Under the Constitution of India, as we know, there are three emergencies. Article 352, then 56 and 360. I will be dealing with Article 356, that is the President's rule in the case of Manipur. In India, the first PR was imposed in the state of Punjab in 1951, and India ranks the fourth state to a place where President rule was imposed in 1967. And in terms of duration, Jammu and Kashmir ranks the first one, taking 15 years, Punjab 10 years, Puducherry 7 years, and Manipur, so far it could be already 7 years. In Manipur, President rule has been imposed 11 times. The recent one this year, 2025, 13th February. So, in all these 11 imposition of President's rule, if we look, there are cases similar and different. And most of the impositions were due to political defections. When, example, Janata Party formed central government, then all the elected members in Manipur all jumped to Janata Party. Then Congress came into power, then all those Janata members jumped into Congress again. So this is one of the defection. And then
on the topic revisiting ethnogenesis in Northeast India, the construction of Kuki identity. So you have 5 to 7 minutes. I hope you will not be reminded of the time.
Okay, very good afternoon once again. Thank you, moderator, and all the learned members in this august gathering. When this current so-called Meitei-Kuki conflict began, or maybe after this conflict, the term Kukizo became so popular. But I think the term Kukizo, if I'm not mistaken, emerges only after this conflict. But if you go back a little bit in time, we have seen so many nomenclatures which are attached with or claim to be distinct from Kuki identity. So, with this in mind, I am interested to look at why so many nomenclature emerges, often the same ethnic community. And here I would like to stress, or I would like to argue that this mushrooming or balkanization of nomenclature in the context of the Kuki Chin ethnic communities is strongly rooted in the colonial time. So this paper revisits the process of ethnogenesis in Northeast India through a critical examination of Kuki identity. And for this, it draws primarily on colonial ethnographic writings, as well as administrative classifications, missionary interventions or role of the church missions, and post-colonial political developments, and argues that Kuki identity or Kuki Chin ethnic identity was neither purely primordial nor organically unified, but emerged through a complex historical processes set by colonial state-making, classificatory practices, and subsequent internal contestation. However, due to paucity of time, I will focus especially on the colonial period and not on the post-colonial period. Now, before the arrival of the British in Northeast India, the hill tribes were known to the plains people or to the valley empire or valley state system by different names. But very little was known about their life war order. Apart from this, in the ancient and medieval Indian literatures, the people of Northeast India, especially the tribal people, were depicted as simply barbarians, and they used so many names. And they were portrayed as sources of trouble. So, as in other parts of Zomia, as James Scott introduced in his book, the hills in the pre-colonial Northeast India had a complex socio-cultural, economic, political setting in addition to their rugged topography. In other words, there were multiple ethnic and linguistic identities which are often unintelligible to one another. Now, when the British arrived in Northeast India and started making contact with these people, somehow they stumbled upon a unique mine of unexplored material which were previously unrecorded, and they find that the life or the lifestyle of these tribal people of Northeast India needed to be recorded immediately, otherwise it will be lost forever. And they also feel that by recording their histories or their cultures or their tradition will address several pressing issues that they face in the West. So, to understand their life war order, they have to explore their history and polity, especially through the perspective of the plains people and not from the perspective of the tribal people. However, it was difficult because they don't have much written history except those few history written by the plains people, and they don't have much archaeological evidence, and so mainly they have to base while trying to understand the hill people, they have to base mainly on the oral history as well as the few literatures that is available with the plains people about them. I'll skip some part. Now, in the process of colonizing the hill tribes, they also feel that these hill people and the hill region should be named, given name. So, based on the geography and culture, though there were so much of differences among the tribal people themselves, just based on the geography or the environment, they started giving names to these people. However, they still find very problematic in giving them names because they could not find much detail about them. I'm talking about the early phase of colonial period. So, by adopting or by borrowing the names used by the plains people, distinct categories of tribes were constructed without the informed knowledge of the hill people themselves. For instance, a rugged hill, which came to be known as the Naga Hills, flanked on the north, east, and south by the valleys of the Brahmaputra, Chinwin, and Manipur, they started naming that part of the hill as Naga Hills. And those communities which were within that hills, they started to call them as Naga tribes. Such categorization was not bad because of their social or ethnological resemblance or because of their similarities, but because they constituted a distinct ecological or geographical zone. Similarly, the tribes south of the so-called Naga Hills came to be known as Kukis or later on Kuki, Lusai, and whatnot. This demonstrates that the mapping of the hills and naming of the tribes were done without the informed knowledge of the local people, but it was not an act of ignorance as well, because they already know that the tribal people had so much indifference.
Okay, please conclude it, your time is over.
So the emergence of such demographic areas in the hills somehow laid the foundation for ethnogenesis and the formation of administrative districts in later stages. So, in the process, they also tried something that they call civilizing mission, and here they use so many steps like collection of taxes from the hill tribes, introduction of new crops, and then giving some kind of despotic powers to some of the chiefs, and the role of the Christian mission had also played an important role. So I'll just conclude. So the division of the Kuki-Chin-Lusai or later Kuki-Chin-Mizo demographic areas, not only administratively but also in assigning different missions to convert them, was the main factor behind the disintegration of this ethnic group. As a result, various attempts to unify the churches as well as the community, especially in Manipur during the post-independence period, remained unsuccessful. So in short, the trifurcation of Kuki or Kuki-Chin or Kuki-Chin-Mizo ethnic identity during the colonial period became a fertile ground, or the ground for the formation of even new identities in the post-colonial period. So in short, what I'm trying to say was that it was during the British period that the same ethnic group were named differently. For example, in the Lusai hills they were named Lusai, later on they became Mizo. In the Chin hills they were named Chin. And then in other parts like in Manipur, Nagaland, Assam, and some other parts they were called Kuki. So this kind of trifurcation of the same ethnic groups into three different identities, and also by assigning different Christian missions to proselytize or to convert them, were mainly responsible for the mushrooming or for the disintegration of this so-called Kuki-Chin or Kuki-Chin-Mizo ethnic identity. Thank you.
Now, may I call the last presenter, Sheikh Totham, on the topic connecting politics and literature through resetting of Kuki folk tales. Okay, you should be conscious of the timing. Carry on.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Chair, and thank you so much, convener, for accommodating me in the last minute. My paper title is Connecting Politics and Literature Through Rereading of Kuki Folktales. This paper, as the title suggests, attempts to trace and link the evolution of forest management of the tribals, particularly that of the Kukis. And yesterday, as Professor Zedongal said, Kukis cannot be separated from forest. In larger term, we may call it nature. Every time we mention the word Kuki, and every time we try to trace the origin, we have to go back to nature or forest. And therefore, keeping this in mind, I try to draw some connections, some links between the Kukis and the forest, which is also reflected in the ADC bill. ADCs traditionally manage various aspects of hill life, including forests and Zoom cultivation, except reserved forests. And this, in fact, is in alignment with the Kukis' customary practice of living in a village. Because the Kukis in the past, their village is often taken as an example of where democracy was upheld, as Dr. T. Un Kim often said in his speech. And the chieftainship and how they manage and how they run the village is a very good example of democracy. The only thing is that in this modern world, we have sufficiently misused the chieftainship. The Kukis in the past distributed a portion of land for Zoom cultivation, mainly for their survival. How do we know that? Through oral literature. Why Zoom cultivation? There are two reasons that this paper pointed out. The first is because Zoom cultivation was the only possible way of their livelihood. There were weavers, there were hunters, but there were no markets. And the only possible way to sustain their life was Zoom cultivation. And second reason, The Zoom cultivation that they practiced were not destructive or harmful like many people practice today. And as I say, this paper is trying to link literature and politics. I would like to point out some poetry or some lines from Kupting Ngambong and Zonting Lenangtung. Kupting, after the death of Kupting, Ngambong was asked to trim one of the tallest trees in the Kupting's parents' field. He agreed, he went there, and he trimmed the branches of the tree, because in those days the manliness of a man were measured in terms of the courage, in terms of how many animals and how many heads they hunted. And Ngambong was considered to be one of the bravest men. He agreed, he went, he trimmed the branches, and he composed this song. Translated by Helkulun Hangsing in his Toibulas Simbu, he translated, "As I trim east side, I flirted with the dams of the east. As I trim west side, I flirted with the dams of the west." And Kuki will say, "Simlangaba zam kahamle, sinunga tekisai kisayin, malangaba zam kahamle, malunga tekisai sayi." And there we can know that the Kukis have already practiced this kind of Zoom cultivation or shifting cultivation since time immemorial. But how they practice were not destructive or not harmful as many people practice today. Why? Through this song we know that they did not uproot the trees like many people do today. They only trimmed them so that in the next few years the tree would regain its branches and then the tree would be felled again. And through the song of Zonting Ngambong also we could see the connection between nature and cookies. Zonting and Nangpun, they were lovers, and they used to go together for a walk. And in those days, women had to carry all the materials of the man, whether it be eggs or anything. And Zonting also carried Nangpun Dumbel. I do not know how I should put it in English. And this is also a song translated by Helkulun Hangsing in his poetry book Toibulas Simbu, and he translated it as the following: "Secretly I bear Nangpun's pipe, Nangpun's smoking pipe, protruding out of my basket, and lo, a petty stem fills it out." In Kuki, it is "Kapu odo gige, golun dumbel kapu odo gige, sampung sana puitai atihim." And from there, as I said, we can see that this kind of practice is not new. It was already been there, but they could sustain their life just based on or through Zoom cultivation. But the scenario has completely changed now. ADC Amendment Bills 2021 or 2022 propose to take away the existing power of ADCs to manage forests, integrating them under the Indian Forest Act, which the tribal bodies oppose. Now the question is this really necessary? And the answer is, I put it as partly no. Partly no, why? Because this kind of forest consciousness, nature consciousness has already been here in the minds of the Kukis since time immemorial. If this kind of nature consciousness has already been there, why is it necessary to take away the forest owned or belonged by the Kukis? And partly yes, it is necessary. Why? Because as the paper has pointed out, this kind of valuable natural gifts has misused sufficiently. And the government may think that the Kukis cannot take care of this kind of natural gift given and bestowed by the God, and therefore it is their duty to manage and preserve what the owner cannot preserve. Now, to conclude, I would like to put a question. Do educationists or academicians not have a role to play in healing the sick nature? And while pondering on this question, one thing we have to keep in our mind is that destroying nature not only affects the destroyer, but also the whole human generation. Thank you.
Okay, the floor is now open for the audience, and whoever asks query, please introduce yourself and make your question clear to the respected presenters. And any question which is raised to you, please note it down. Then after that you have to respond. Okay, now the floor is open.
Thank you very much. My question is the first presenter, Dr. Khan. And very nicely you have highlighted, and I also belong from the village under Panchayat Raj system from Kerala country. My sharing is that under the political structure of India, the Panchayati Raj system of Manipur, what you like to say, so many evolutions, so many accommodations, suggestions, as an institution of grassroots, the Panchayat Raj system of Manipur, what is your comment that it is not working, or what suggestion, or what is your view about this? Because you have gone very deeply, so I think you can share some idea. I am interested to know about this. I am also not satisfied with the working of Panchayat. Equally, the district council also not working, that is there, but specifically the institution of Panchayat Raj system has been telling.
Thank you. Of course, I'm Gautam Mukhopadhyay. I firstly would like to compliment all the speakers, and especially Professor Fariduddin Khan, for his very candid, paper on the functioning of the Panchayati Raj in the valley. And I would particularly like to, there were a number of really interesting presentations on the emergency powers, on nomenclature. But I would particularly like to highlight the last paper presented by Mr. Tothan, because it brings out the relationship between the Kuki people and nature, which is the subject of a lot of false propaganda. Even before this conflict started, I used to come across amongst the Nagas, amongst the Tangkul Nagas, some references that the Kukis are not attached to their land, they are not attached to nature, because in fact they are nomadic or migratory. And therefore they lack the kind of attachment to land that, say, the Nagas themselves had. And in a way, what you are saying contests that. And I have a feeling that this should be promoted, this should be written about much more. And I would be willing to help you to find publication in mainstream papers. But it's also equally true what you ended with, which is that in present times, cookies are particularly responsible for the destruction of nature, whether it is in the form of poppy cultivation, or it's in the form of deforestation, or it's in the form of ravaging our own rivers. And my question to you is really, having studied this, whether you have any ideas about really what is the dynamics, what is the mechanics that is leading to this, and what, if anything, can be done about it. Because very clearly it's also linked to the power dynamics, and it's also linked to a very important distinction between need and greed. And people are using need to justify greed. And we come back to the famous quotation of Mahatma Gandhi on this.
Okay. First, Fariduddin Khan will respond to the query, then that should be followed by Seginlal. Then after both of them respond, then you can ask more questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Actually, the question is, I wanted to say something, but I ended up, because I had a time frame of 20 minutes. The working of the PRIs is a complex negotiation. it's a test, it's an experiment, it's a laboratory for Indian federalism and commitment to the inclusiveness as a secular state. So it remains a, test. It is within the laboratory. Unfortunately, after more than 75 years, the working of the PRIs, despite the beautifully structured institutions, system, the working has been apathetic and it needs to be improved. But if the goal is to become these institutions, PRI institutions, at a village level, effective, inclusive, and contextually legitimate, then we have to look into it. But unfortunately, that is a problem. And the problem is not with the people. As I have to say, the system should train the people, the citizens, given that we have the populations which are majorly have issues below poverty line, they have issues, they are in the struggling phase, survival phase. So the failure to honest lies with the government of day to day, time to time, the government of the present day as well as the previous from time to time. And we must strengthen the Panchayati Raj institutions somehow. Now, I am not an expert how to do this, but we were discussing about, at least in Valley and Hills, one of the suggestions was that there should be a committee which includes ethnographers, which should include experts, constitutional experts, whether it's lawyers or jurists. The politicians will be there, and bureaucracy and civil society organizations to look into the working of ADCs. Similarly, in the valley areas also. And the Panchayati Raj institutions, even if it is shown in a there is some success to it, Manrega is one of them, but the corruption remains the biggest challenges. And from that, the effect is the domino effect is huge. So I would say again that it's a complex negotiation, it's a tasting Indian federalism and India's pluralism. As per the solutions, I have one solution that we have to strengthen and bottom-up level has to be done. How to do it, this is a question of debate, this is a question of discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for asking that question. I don't know whether I'll be able to answer as per your expectation, but let me try. Yes. The first is this kind of mistreatment of nature, I would put it, is we cannot totally blame the settlers, the tribals, the cookies. It is also partly because of the faults of the government. Because only little funds have been sanctioned and given to the hilly people. And very sadly, the little funds that are given to the hilly people are again corrupted. And of the little funds that are given to the tribal peoples, only a few reach the grassroots level. For example, as this is educational platform, let's take as an example. Presently there is no university in the districts of Manipur. And after the conflict, if any of the Kukis-Joe community wants to go for further studies, they have to go to outside state, and which is very, very costly. And for that we need money. And as we need money, where do we get? It is not about 1,000, 2,000. It's about in terms of 10,000, 20,000. And the best way to get is go to the forest and do what many people are doing. Because most of them are uneducated, and this is the easiest way to get money. And you also ask, is it a need or a greed? And let me simply put it this way. In trying to fulfill their needs, they become greedy. Thank you, sir.
It was an interesting session, and my question will be directed to Reverend Ledkulen Hokip. I hope I got it correctly.
Introduce yourself first.
Oh, sorry. I assume that all of you must have known me. My name is Dr. Hoipi Hokip from the Department of History, and right now I'm the IQSD coordinator of Presidency College. My question is directed to Reverend Ledkulen Hokip regarding about the Mizoram experiences. And he had particularly mentioned one wrote about the church in governance, which proved to be a very interesting point of discussion in Manipur. My question is this church still as powerful as we read in the papers or in social media about how they are able to influence those political leaders in the election campaigns and all? That is one question. And another question is directed to Sekila Totan. I didn't quite clearly get the title of your paper, but I'm assuming, I hope I'm wrong, that your paper was entitled Political Representations Through Folktales, or is that right?
Connecting politics and literature through rereading of the key folktales.
Yeah, connecting politics through rereading of folktales. And you have cited two examples, folktales from Kuki folktales and Kupting Lenampong and Nantung. Here you have cited out, in my perspective, in my opinion, you have left out the political interpretation. Rather, you are emphasizing more on the economic and agricultural as well as occupational interpretation. Because if you go and read many of the Kuki folktales, in one folktales you will have all the social, political and cultural history within that particular stories. And even you will find so many other nuances also. So could you clarify on that? Thank you.
My name is Kim. I am from Presidency College. I am teaching philosophy, but mine is not at all related to these political issues as such. But then one question for Sir Seigindal is, because I'm concerned about the environment, so I'll just, since he concluded with this question mark, like what role can an academician or, an educationist, what role can they play in trying to conserve or preserve this environment? So I would like to hear his answer, like what role can they play in trying to, preserve this ecosystem? Thank you.
As Seigindal draws more attention, let him respond to the two query parts, and after that, Reverend Dr. Ledkulen Hokip will follow him.
Okay, thank you for the questions, ma'am. Let's try again. Yes, first to Dr. Hoipi, she asked, I was more concerned and more interested in presenting the literature and not on the political perspective of the Kuki folktales. Yes, because it was a very brief presentation and we couldn't do much. But to elaborate, let's put it this way, I've cited very briefly the Kuki village system, how they function in the past can be taken as a very good example of how democracy is upheld in a society. For instance, they have chief, who used to be the chairman, and then they have Semang, they have Pachong, secretary, information secretary, and so on. And this, they have family code, they have village code. In the village code, the church is the chief, and then they have area code, or in today's term we may call it high code, and then supreme code, and so on. That was the kind of traditional practices that the Kukis have in the past. And while saying that, one thing that we should not forget is that those leaders in the village, according to their portfolios, they maintain and they see and how a village and how all the people in the village, how all the villagers live and exist peacefully. For example, they did not simply cultivate a land everywhere they like. Either the Sema or the Pacham has to take a decision, and with his permission, they were distributed a portion of land, maybe a mountain for this year. They go to that particular mountain, they cultivate it, and in the next year they'll have another meeting. Okay, we'll leave this mountain for this year, and then we'll shift to another place. And that was the kind of polity, that was the kind of systematic arrangement that they have in the past. And second question, ma'am. What role do academicians or educationists have in serving the mother earth or nature? That was the question that I put, and very unfortunately she threw it back to me. And if I have to answer, we should try to analyze and we should try to discuss more in this kind of academic platforms as much as possible. And the best that academicians and educationists could do is to write as much as we can. Because when we write, people read, and we should try to write in such a way that people are willing to read what we are writing. And this is what I think academicians and educationists, because unlike the civil organizations, we cannot go to village and we cannot preach. The best we could do is we have to use our brain, we have to give our time, and we have to continue writing. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Your question is yes. The church is still very influencing in Mizoram, particularly in good governance and electoral reforms. For instance, they have Mizoram People Forum since I think 2006. I think our moderator knows better. During election times, they would have a common platform for all political parties. And then the MPF will lead the discussions. And then they are not allowed to make toll promises sometimes. And also they have sometimes even fixed the size of their banners and posters also. And also, I think even the Election Commission of India acknowledged the role of church during the elections. So there are lots of things to say actually. So I wish we have more time instead. Actually, I really want to discuss these things, but I think time is very limited to say so many things. And then, with regards to good governance, I think sometimes they used to make the chief minister to correct not necessarily wrongdoings, but giving suggestions, advice how to let the state in a better way. That's it. So many things to say. Actually, this. Maybe one day we have to discuss properly, because electoral reforms is very important. Once these malpractices are done away, actually, we will have a new society actually.
For the information of Dr. Haiti and all those who are interested, I contributed one paper on the role of MPF in Indian Journal of Political Science. I think you can search it. So, how it came up, what is its functioning, and what are its duty, all those will be found in that journal in detail. Because I was also involved as a church elder. And Lulun said, ECI acknowledged the church, not the church, MPF. But the leading role is played by the church. All the church associations
and all the civil societies, they are member of that. And I represented the church in one time in the general headquarters committee. So whenever election is here, then they will call all the political party representatives. And with the knowledge of all the political parties representative, then MPF will draft agreement. And all the political parties representatives will sign here. Then during election, when the MPF process it, if any political party says something or give negative remarks, you already had assented to this and we are pursuing it. Why? And if any political party is not going as per the session of the MPF, they will be announced publicly. Then, while I was, before I joined university, while I was in government college in Bangkok. So sometimes we open court at night. Whenever there was some crisis during election time, they call us. Then in such a way, and this MPF, they didn't do anything different. And the model or the theme of this MPF is based on Psalm 37:3. And the model code of conduct, which has been notified by the Election Commission of India, that is the standpoint of the MPF. So on the basis of that, like party, gathering, feast, those are completely banned. And if any candidate is doing that, they will be publicized. So they don't want to be publicized in front of the public. And in this, the church is taking a lot of role. And due to that, if you want to know more, you can search that my paper in Indian Journal of Political Science. And so we have had 5 papers and 1 special lecture. And Dr. Khan, he briefly highlighted the functioning of this panchayat system in the valley. And I think it is really refreshing and it is awakening and it creates awareness for many of us who are not aware of it. And the paper presenters, they have highlighted their topics. And so for 2 days, we deliberated on democratic decentralization. Democratic decentralization means in tribal area, there was ADC under 6th schedule. Then there were some councils outside the 6th schedule. In Manipur hill areas and among the plain tribes of Assam, then in some other areas. But yes, we know 6th schedule is specifically functioned only in 4 states of Northeast India now. Assam, there are 3 councils, 1 territorial, 2 autonomous. Meghalaya, there are 3 ADCs. Mizoram, there are 3 ADCs. Then in Tripura, there is 1 ADC. So we have 10 councils. And as we know, in Northeast, there is no functioning of 5th schedule. That we should not be confused. And in the plain area, as we say, PRI is functioning, is enacted by Parliament through Constitution 73rd Amendment Act of 1992. And with regard to this PRI, relaxation has been made for the state of Mizoram, Meghalaya, Nagaland, and hill areas of Manipur, including Darjeeling Gorkha Hill Council. But the situation in Darjeeling Gorkha Hill Council is different. In Manipur, Mizoram, Manipur hill area, Mizoram, Nagaland, and Meghalaya. That means 2/3 majority of the state legislative assembly approval is required. But in case of Darjeeling Gorkha Hill Council, Jila Parishad should not function. That means Gram Panchayat and Panchayat Committee may function. Jila Parishad should not function because there is Darjeeling Golkha Hill Council, which is now known as GTA, Golkha Territorial Administration. And not only that, in 5th schedule area in the mainland India also, it was not functioning for many years, this PRI. But with the enforcement of PISA, Panchayat extension in schedule area at 1996. So Panchayat began to be expanded in scheduled area. That means tribal areas of mainland India. And Mr. Gautam has raised one question to my good friend Professor J.K. Sharma with regard to why 6th schedule is not functioning in Manipur. Because Bordolai subcommittee party did not govern Manipur and Tripura. During that time, Manipur and Tripura, they were princely states. And some exclusive laws which I mentioned yesterday, like Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation 1873 and some other laws, they were not exactly enforced in Manipur, but tribals in hill areas of Manipur and Tripura, they were governed by the spirit of those exclusive laws. For example, Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation 1873, particularly this regulation was enforced for hill tribes. Not only for the plain tribes, also for the hill tribes. And as per the constitutional provision, this should be enforced only in the tribal area. Enforcement of this provision among the plain people means it is total dilution of the original act. If we go as part of the original act. That's what I can say. And I contribute, concerning that I contribute in Southeast Asian Journal from University of Kerala also last year with regard to this ILP. And due to that, as Manipur and Tripura, they were princely states. And one thing that we have to know is that Manipur and Tripura, they were princely states, but they were not sovereign states. Sovereignty of Manipur ended after Gomzong War. Then, before 1949 also, in case of Manipur and Tripura, like coinage, defense, external affairs, all these were controlled by British government of India. Then Manipur and Tripura, they were princely states, but they were also under the influence and direction of Chief Commissioner of Assam. Because of that, though they were not part of Assam province, they were also governed by Chief Commissioner of Assam. Because of that, all those British agents who were assassinated in Gomzong War, the beginning of Gomzong War, they were also sent by Chief Commissioner of Assam. Because of that, history should be known clearly, history should be interpreted clearly, and history should not be distorted so that communal harmony can be maintained. And like we talk about democratic decentralization. And when we talk about democratic decentralization, it means democracy at the grassroots. So for tribal area, ADC under 6th schedule, and those tribal who are not under 6th schedule also, they have, so to say, Nakli ADC like Manipur. Why I say Nakli? It is really Nakli. Then there are some, but for plain area there is Panchayatiras. And with regard to these village administration, yeah, those ADCs, autonomous councils of Assam, Karbi Anglong and North Kasar Hills also, they have some problems, some gaps here because there is no grassroots democratic setup at the village level under Karbi Anglong and North Kasar Hills. Some gaps there. Then in Meghalaya also, these traditional Nokmas, they are playing. Then, but in Mizoram context, after the abolition of chieftainship in Lusai Hills in 1954, then village council was introduced, and those village council became full-fledged democratically elected body in Mizoram. So in the context of ADC of Mizoram, they don't face this problem. But Karbi Anglong, North Kasar Hills, they face that problem. And now, 6th Schedule Amendment is in the process. Constitution 125th Amendment Bill. And my friend J.K. Sarma mentioned something about this. And why this 6th Schedule Amendment is pending in the Parliament for about 7 years now. And for this 6th Schedule Amendment, different teams have been sent, and amendment is in the process. And particularly those, whenever autonomous district councils elections are here in Mizoram, they campaign on the slogan of this 6th Schedule Amendment, voicing that they may get direct funding. And why? Because, and what is the main aim of this 125th Amendment Bill? Democratic decentralization. To empower village administration, to empower village council, and to introduce certain good points of this PRI in the villages under 6th Schedule. That is the aim. Because under the leadership of Professor David Shinley, we had one joint project. We completed one joint project from Ministry of Home Affairs. And Professor David Shinley was our convener, and I was in charge of Mizoram. Then we did groundwork, certain queries were put up, so we submitted to him. Then he compiled it, and our finding was submitted to Ministry of Home Affairs in June 2009. In June 2009. Then some of those findings, some of our research findings were incorporated in this 125th Amendment Bill, which is still in the process. Because of that, this 125th Amendment Bill, the main concern is to empower village council, to give more power, more fund to the village. Because without developing village, India will never achieve Viksit Bharat. It is on that point. So, 6th Schedule Amendment is still in the process. And what will be the outcome that we have to wait and watch. And lastly, I would like to briefly elaborate on this Article 371 and how this Article 371 originated. Because for enabling special provision for the state of Maharashtra and Gujarat, Article 371 was enacted by the Parliament. So this provision was first included by the Parliament by Constitution 7 Amendment of 1976. And it was named, that special provision was named under Article 371. Then, as a result of Naga People's Convention demand, NPC demand, which I mentioned yesterday. So, Constitution 13 Amendment Act was enacted, and as a result of that Constitution 13 Amendment Act, Article 371A was added for Nagaland. Then in that Article 371A, land and its natural resources should be controlled by Nagaland Legislative Assembly. Then, till today, oil could not be explored in Wokha district of Nagaland because Naga claims that land and its natural resources should be under control by Nagaland Legislative Assembly, and it is still pending. And this Article 371B, it was inserted by Parliament Amendment again, and this concerned about the hill tribes of Assam, their provision. Then Article 371C, it was enacted by Constitution 27 Amendment Act 1971 concerning the hill areas of Manipur. these hill areas of Manipur, how they should be governed. They should have separate committee in the legislative assembly. Then, so protection of the tribal, it lies in this Article 371C in Manipur. But it is not directly concerned with democratic decentralization. It is concerned with governance and protection of the tribals of hill areas of Manipur as a whole, but it is not directly concerned with democratic decentralization. We should not be confused with it. Because of that, it cannot be compared with ADC. This is different. Then, other than that, so for Mizoram, Article 371G was added after the enactment of Constitution 53rd Amendment Act 1986. And where this Article 371G was added for Mizoram. So, top brass decision makers of India, they have, so to say, some experience with Nagaland. So in case of Mizoram, only land is included, but natural resources they didn't want. So that is the difference between Article 371A of Nagaland and Article 371G of Mizoram. So this provision of this Article 371, whether it be A, B, C, G or H with regard to Arunachal Pradesh, it does not concern directly with democratic decentralization. And what I would like to conclude at last is that even without 6th schedule, we can do certain things, but we are not doing. So we have, even without this PRI, we have our own traditional chieftainship, village administration, and government of India trusts that due to that, PRI is not imposed in the areas. Then why we are not utilizing that traditional administration? Earlier, in olden days, this traditional administration was used for preservation and protection of environment. But it becomes just the opposite now. So, yesterday, I narrated my ill experience which I found during my morning walk. So if this is the situation everywhere, what will be our future? In this regard, I would like to tell that each of us, we have our own work. Each of us, we have to create awareness in our own level, from the local level. If not, if we spoil our environment, if we don't know how to plant trees, and if we keep on destroying our environment and soil, then there is no future for our next generation. Because of that, even if we stress on democratic decentralization, ADC, this and that, 6th schedule, even if we get 6th schedule, that means if we are not aware of environment, we have no future. Because of that, in that, all of us, we have our own assignment. We should try to fulfill that assignment. Okay? With that, let me conclude the technical session. And now I would like to invite our convener if he has any announcement to be made.
For chairing one of the most reviling technical session of the seminar and for enlightening us in regards to PRI, ADC, 6 schedules and what not. Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Farid, for delivering a wonderful speech in regards to PRI. Thank you, all the paper presenters. Now, as we have come to the end of our seminar, the lunch is ready outside, and then for the kind information of all the participants, certificate of participation will be distributed outside in the counter reception, and then for the paper presenters, you can get the certificate from the Dr. Anturu, our reporters sitting here. And to conclude our seminar, we have to convert our validatory function into validation function. That we all have to agree and we have to validate the function. And then for that, we have Dr. Namzahao, Associate Professor of Sociology, IIT Guwahati. And for that, may I invite Dr. Namzahao to deliver 3-in-1 speech. That is certificate, there is concluding remarks, vote of thanks, and pronouncement of the official closing of the 2-day national seminar.
I think almost everyone is hungry, so I will make my speech very brief. So it's a combo of 3 things which I am going to do. It's concluding remarks, valedictory, votes of thanks, and so on and so forth. I think this 2 days national seminar is very fruitful for me at least. I don't know about you all. I have so many things to take away. I've learned a lot from our eminent political scientists, beginning from the inaugural keynote and then the special lectures in between. So everything seems to be, on the right track. And I think we should also, thank the funding agency, that is the Northeastern Council, Government of India, which is based in Shillong. So without their support, I think this sort of seminar would not have been possible. And I also thank the host, the principals of this college, as well as our convener, Dr. Thathan and Dr. Seyhokiken, and the staff, the supporting volunteers and everyone. Last but not least, I also want to, I think in the morning I talked with the convener, and then maybe the organizers would contact the participants for a full paper. So I think you should keep it ready. We may come up with an edited volume. So that would be, on record. With you may not have enough time to present your full paper, but that edited volume perhaps would be, helpful for the other audience as well. Yes, and we should be having such kind of seminar more often, and utilize the infrastructures which we have. So, did I miss out anything? So, with the permission of the convener, I would like to host this 2 days seminar, and once again, thank you.